when people start to see, you come out of that accountant's and it's like a body blow, isn't it?
The first signs, my first trip to the accountants for, the building up of our annual accounts.
You've seen some warning signs. You've not buried your head, yet you have took some steps. Hello and welcome to the Director First podcast. Today we are going to be having a chat with a recent client of ours. So you guys out there watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or listening to us on Spotify, so you can understand what has happened to the company, what the dreaded liquidation was like, how we helped as Director First, what challenges there were, and how the director feels now. So welcome to the podcast, James. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you briefly sort of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business, before it went into liquidation?
Yeah, of course. So my name is James Lyons. I'm 46 years old. I'm an ex-seafarer, mariner, master 3,000 ton, and I have worked in and around ships and ship repair conversion, shipyards my whole life. 2 years ago, I set up a small business actually for a completely different subject, for a company in Holland, to provide business development services in the UK, which they see as a key market space for them.
Okay, mate. Now, thank you for that. Obviously, you've been running this business for a couple of years, and then obviously, if you forgive the pun, the ship started to have some difficulties. Now, how did you? What was the first signs that you saw that thought, oh wait there, maybe I've got an issue here?
The first signs, technically, were when I did my first trip to the accountants for, the building up of our annual accounts. And I sat with them and they explained to me the state of the business. The business itself, in terms of cash flow, was quite lucrative, but my lack of understanding of how to manage that cash got me into that was the first sign of trouble. So I did the classic, I don't have a loan account with my own business, for instance, for a director's, for the DLA. And there were other things as well. I didn't fully understand VAT. I didn't fully understand what qualified for VAT. I didn't fully understand the categories at which expenses go into. And I also I'd never read through, really had spent much time in a profit loss and balance sheet. Being a director, I think being a director, you have to be, for want of a better word, you have to be quite arrogant. You have to be quite bulletproof anyway. Otherwise, you're just not going to try and do what it is you're wanting to do, i.e. run your own business, service a marketplace, whatever it might be. And so I think that's a big Achilles heel for a lot of guys like myself. We move into most things and we say, yeah, there's no problem here. We can just forge forward. We know that we can get this done. But when it comes to being organized with your business and how HMRC look at your business, that was a major downfall of my attitude towards my business.
And obviously, when people start to see, you come out of that accountant's and it's like a body blow, isn't it? It's like, how did you feel when you started to sort of see that these issues were coming up against you? What were your biggest fears during that time, James?
Oh, it's it's like losing the worst fight of your life. it's I felt absolutely buckled. I really felt negative about myself and about how I'd been as a human being, as a dad, as a father, a responsibility for looking after your family space as well as looking after your business space. And to be honest with you, I had fairly bad thoughts at that moment in time. I thought it would be easier to go one way than to push through this situation.
And that's it. It's like, I mean, I remember for me, like the worst time when I was going through this is like when I'm at home and like the hustle and the bustle of the day's gone, and I'm looking at my kids and I'm thinking, because
Oh,
like
it was
if I fall, no
unbearable.
one catches
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? And it were like,
Yeah.
I really get that when people start talking, and it's the same thing. It's like, that's I mean, that's why I go to work. I go to work to give my kids a nice life. That's it. I don't want to be Donald Trump. I
Yeah.
want my kids to have a good life and, in a safe place and, keep that roof over the head. So I completely identify with those feelings, mate. So obviously you've seen some warning signs. You've not buried your head yet. You have took some steps. Okay.
Well, not immediately. I made it worse to begin with.
Okay.
Not immediately, yeah. So that was the first year accounts, and because of when I set up my business, that was actually 18 months into us trading. So the balance sheet is talking about figures. When someone puts figures like 75K here, 100,000 there, you sober up pretty quickly. These are the sum of most people's houses that they were talking to me about had gone through the business, and that I had been responsible for sharing or managing, and the responsibility of that was overwhelming. And what that did for me is that it sent me off down a path of, right, I can fix this. And I ended up borrowing money, a significant amount of money, in order to try and get through that first year. And to be fair, the amount of money that we were making at that moment in time, the borrowing was not insignificant, but it wasn't hugely significant. So I ended up using our savings and borrowing money to pay or to prop up the business, and certainly pay off the director's loan account that I had rung up in the first year. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, that's a trap that most directors fall into. Like that we're not. A lot of accountants won't advise a director exactly how you should be taking the money out. How, if you are on top of like a
No, they
possible
don't.
loss.
They don't. No, you think
Like,
you get in contact with the accountants and you say, hi, my name's James. This is my business development specialist. We do this. And they say, okay, fine. We'll see you, next April, for your first submission. And I actually asked some questions over the course of my first year, proactively, and they explained it to me. But honestly, I don't think they believed that I knew as little about business as I did. And looking back on it, I really made some significant mistakes. I mean, I moved money out of the business and into our savings because I had I just didn't think of that then as income. For me, it was my business, my money going into savings, and the savings were going to pay the tax man. I mean, it was pretty bad.
but very common as well. And I think I mean, I won't go into details, right, about numbers, but you then managed to claw all that money back and plow it back into the business, didn't you? It was
I did.
And you cleared a lot of the debt down. It was just like at the end, it's like, I can't get over this last bit.
I cleared most of the debt down. Actually, I started talking to you when we had our second year of accounts, and my director's loan account was again massive. And that's prompted me. I saw you online, and I got in contact with you, and I started to think about the option of liquidating the business. But even then, I went back to the accountants and I said, hey, listen, this is what I've been doing with I actually started communicating properly with my accountants, and I realized that accountants will do what you tell them to do within the letter of the law. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That is it. So if you don't know anything about business and you don't ask them the right questions, they are not going to come forward and say, hey, listen, we've been watching your zero, your account. They ran my zero software for me. We've been watching. We're a bit worried about this or this. That doesn't happen. It might happen if you know an accountant personally, but generally speaking, that doesn't happen. So you're not going to have any signs until you go and sit with them and do your first year of accounts. And unless you take a course or unless you proactively go and see them 4 or 5 times in your first year of business. But I managed to get the DLA down. So I managed, by sitting with them, my DLA, I don't mind giving you some ballpark figures, went from roughly 40K down to 25K. And that was whilst I was speaking to you the first time. And I thought to myself, I can make this, because the business still had some lucrative contracts. And I thought, no, I can still battle on. And I was actually going to battle on. The decision was forced when my lead contract with this company in Holland, they actually said, listen, we're not using your LTD in the way that we wanted to use it. And we want to stop what we're doing now and reassess. And that left me with debt, with no income, and owing HMRC. It was a perfect storm. So I went too late into thinking about liquidating my business. I should have thought about doing that earlier.
But in fairness, I remember having our chat and said, Chris, I'm going to fight on. And there are some people that I've had a chat with a guy this morning. He's talking about fighting on. I'm thinking, I says, you've no hope. I says, I know we're quite brutal with this guy, because somebody's got to be. Not every conversation I have is nice and, they get off the phone feeling great. Sometimes you've got to go, listen, you need to take your head out your backside and you need to do something. But I remember that call you. There was a good reason you could have. I think what this is highlight for me as well is, had the hammer blow not come from the Dutch firm, you could have maybe traded out of this. And a lot of liquidations, a lot of insolvencies are brought onto directors. Okay, might be a little bit of negligence. We learn as we go. I know I certainly have. But it's outside factors, contracts being lost, people not paying them. And then there's a knock-on effect. So when you come back on, there was a reason to do it and sort of move forward. Now, where did you, what were the steps you took to sort of understand that actually liquidation was the best option for you in the business?
I wouldn't have been able to do that without your guidance. I didn't know that liquidation was the best option for my business. In fact, I thought liquidation genuinely, in my mindset, and you know me, I'm very blunt, liquidation is for losers. They both begin with L. When you have failed, you liquidate a business. Now, that might be the case sometimes. and that might be the way that you feel. But a lot of the time, as you've just described, it is for reasons outwith your control that your business becomes unviable. But really understanding liquidation, the process, and how painful or painless it was going to be for me personally was down to Director First, was ultimately down to you. And I know you normally deal with much bigger issues than my small business, but I ended up talking to you, and you walked me through it. But still, I think that even now, like maybe this is some kind of solace that I'm experiencing now, if I can possibly help someone else not make the same mistakes I made, that kind of mindset. But liquidating a business hurts you personally. It hurts you in your pride. It hurts you where all of our manly feelings reside, and it's difficult to deal with. At the time, most of the conversations that I had with you personally revolved around how I felt, and involved you saying, listen, that's not true. That isn't, in this case, that's not accurate. That's not true. So it's a very emotional experience. And after you've done it, however, it is learning. It frees you. It helps you have a deeper understanding of what it is to manage an LTD in the UK, and whether you want to, and whether it's an attractive option for you personally. That is all part and parcel of liquidating a business, I think.
You touched like the emotional roller coaster, and listen, I remember I'm fairly uniquely positioned in this whole industry, because the only reason I'm here today is because I went through a liquidation, and like you, I live in a little town, real little town, and I'm thinking, oh the old town.
Yeah.
The old town's talking about me for this, and
yeah,
I had friends who worked for me who had to be let go, and obviously we owed the HMRC, we owed a supplier money, and it was like we never ever intended to go there. That was not the intention. But something happened externally, and we were just caught with our pants down,
yeah.
But I remember,
I think most people are. I don't think most people go screaming into a liquidation going, do you know, sod HMRC, sod my suppliers, I don't care. Yeah, exactly. I don't.
That is the conception some people have. It's like, it's, everyone who does it is dodgy. And listen, there are those serial offenders that, God knows how they get away with that type of thing. But 99, in fact, all of my clients, I don't work with people like that. They're good people. For whatever reason, something's happened. But mate, my pride and my ego,
That's the killer blow. That's the killer blow. That's the difficult bit to deal with. Doesn't matter if you're in a small village or a big town. That's just telling my wife.
Yeah.
Just telling my wife I just put it off for weeks. I just couldn't tell Vicky. I just couldn't tell her that I'd failed, or that I felt that I failed. And you know what she said when I told her?
Go on.
Oh, good. I didn't like the responsibility anyway. I mean, she literally literally in her eyes, it didn't affect the way she looked at me at all, because she'd watched me work my guts out.
Yeah.
She'd watched me work my guts out, and she'd also seen me earn some good money, and she'd seen me make some mistakes, but she knew that I'd not made them knowingly. And she had been with me the whole way through. And as soon as I told her, she was like, yeah, so what? Get on with it. Who's this Chris guy? Does he seem like a good guy? Do what he tells you to do and just get it done. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And it was the same with other business people that I met, even people now. Oh, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. What you been up to? Well, bit of a rocky road, but I'm better now. I've just liquidated my business. They were like, oh, interesting. What did that consist of? I said, well, it was, it's pretty straightforward, to be honest, if you find yourself in that situation. And so
let
I
me
think
jump in there, because that's what. Tell us about the process, because everyone is frightened to death of what a liquidation looks like and what happens. Tell us in your own words, warts and all, the bad bits. Get it, for people watching out there. What is a voluntary liquidation like right now in the UK?
in hindsight, I didn't have any bad bits because I didn't have anything to hide. If you've got something to hide, or if you feel guilty about something, be prepared for having to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because it has to come out. Your liquidation, the process. I got in contact with you. You let me know how much it was going to cost. You let me know how long roughly it was going to take. And you then took the information that you needed to put a proposal to me. I then paid for my liquidation. Some of that money went towards, you'll forgive me if I've forgotten the name of the people. Ben is the
Molly's team. Yeah,
Molly's team. Molly's team. So I hand over from you to Molly. And at that point, I was like, oh, crikey, Chris was really nice. Maybe Molly's the big bad wolf. No, Molly just wants to know what's happened. What has happened? This has happened. Why did that happen? I made a mistake, or I did this, or my number one client cancelled there. Right. Okay. What is it you owe? I owe this. I owe this. I owe this. And your personal financial situation. Well, I've borrowed this and this to try and pay for all of this. And they package it up for you. I mean, there are forms to fill in. You have to sign and fill in
a good few forms to fill in.
There's roughly an A4 pad worth of forms to fill in, but you don't have to write them. You just have to read them and sign them.
Yeah. So obviously we really appreciate every client that we get, but what was it that sort of made you decide to work with us, and how did we, and me and the wider team here, how did we assist you during the process, before, during, and after, really?
The telltale sign for me, honestly, with you, Chris, is, and your team, and your brother actually as well. I spent a lot of time on the blower first with your brother. So a lot of it for me was the fact that you were available when I felt really dangerously low, to be honest. It was the emotional side. And I thought to myself, if these guys care to pick up the phone at 8:30 at night, when I'm having pretty dark thoughts about where I'm sitting and whether or not I'm going to survive this, then I trust what these folk are saying. I trust what they're telling me, and I'm going to go with the process. But it is a leap of faith. It doesn't matter how you look at it. If you are a director, as I said before, you are naturally not used to trusting other people with your dirty laundry. It's not what you do. It's not what you do. You're a guy or a girl who forges forward, makes things happen, develops a business in a market space that doesn't exist. These people, we're not built in that way. So it is a leap of faith. But that's what hooked me, was the fact that you and your team were available to me when honestly, all I wanted to do was have a bit of a moan. All of the other stuff came naturally. It was easy to describe exactly where I thought I had gone wrong in hindsight. It was easy to describe how I tried to fix that. It was easy to tell you what my balance sheet says in terms of what I owe and who I owe it to. But what really convinced me that to use you guys was the fact that you seemed to actually care about me as a human being, which I value above all else.
Well, again, because we've been there, I've been there, you know what I mean? It's we know, I know what it was like speaking to insolvency people, and it was awful, because I'm being spoken to like I'm a criminal. I'm being spoken to like I'm a naughty schoolboy. The bedside manner was terrible, and
That's what I was expecting.
Yeah,
that's what everybody expects.
You kept ringing people on Google. but
yeah, well, I did, but I got that response from others. I won't mention them. You were second that I rung out of 4 that I rung in total, I think 3 or 4. You were number 2. And I only rung number 3 and 4 because I thought to myself, listen, you've got to this is a market space that you don't understand.
It's a big decision. You've got to speak to more than one person, mate.
Yeah, you do. And the other people that's worth speaking to are your bloody accountants, because I thought, well, this lot are going to blacklist me. They're never going to speak to me again. It's not true. It isn't true. Accountants work for you. If you're going to carry on trading, they'll carry on working for you.
And there's a point there with the accountants, right, that has got to be made. If you're watching this and you are not getting management information regularly, accurate information about profit and loss, how much is coming in, how much is going out, you're left with that bit in the middle. And if there's no bit in the middle, there's a problem. But if you're not doing that monthly P&L, how on earth are you meant to know? You know, and that's what I'm really strong with people today is to say, listen, your accountant, a lot of them can give you more information. They will bill you for more information because most people will do the, £1,000 a year. All that gets you is the statutory filings that you have to do. No more. Okay.
Yeah.
On top of that, you want bookkeeping, okay?
Yeah.
You want some type of profit and loss.
I only did bookkeeping from year 2. Year one, I did what everybody done, and I looked at the fees from the accountants, and I was like, bugger that. I'm just going to do the filing fee, the £1,200. I'll just do that at the end. We'll get it done. That's not the right decision to make. I mean, that really is not the right decision to make. There are accountants, and then there are good accountants, and there are more accountants than there are good accountants. Yeah. You need to get a good accountant that's going to look after your business interest, and you need to pay them for the work that they do. And if they're not proactive, you need to be asking them, listen, should I be thinking about this? Should I be thinking about that? Because the answer to all of it is yes. It's going to cost you, but yes. But if you end up paying, £3,000 a year to your accountant, and it saves you, misreading HMRC or not filing your VAT returns correctly, because HMRC, they do not like businesses that don't file their VAT returns correctly. It's a massive pet hate for HMRC. I didn't know that. I wasn't trying to upset anybody. It's just all of these things you find out along the way, but you have to communicate with your accountant and make sure you've got a good one.
What advice would you give to a director watching or listening to this right now, mate?
What if this was resonating with them and they were thinking,
if they're struggling, they might be missing the next HMRC payment. They might have lost a contract. They might
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't miss a payment to HMRC. If you're missing a payment to HMRC, that's an action point. You need to action that. You need to make sure that you're taking action on that. And if you can't pay it, then you've got to liquidate your business. It's as simple as that. I wouldn't advise people to do what I do and beg, steal, or borrow to keep your business going because you thought that would be the right thing to do. It isn't. It isn't, because after you liquidate, you're still left with those loans to pay, by the way.
Exactly. And that's where you've took on personally guaranteed loans.
Yeah.
And had I come across your path earlier, anyone I say to who's thinking about investing personal money or taking loans that they have to personally guarantee, I say you need to be 1,000,000% certain that you're getting out of this. And if you're not, you do not put good money in after bad.
You can't. And I think most people will know, listening to this, if this is resonating with you, you know that there's actions that you want to take. And the thing that's getting in the way is your pride. And your pride is not I can't think of a situation in which pride is useful, to be honest. But I'm sure there is one out there, but I can't think of one as people who live and work. Let's be honest, if you run your own business, you're a half decent business person. You make a little bit of money. You might have made some mistakes. You might have situations out with your control that have changed the landscape that the business that you have operates in. If that is you, then take action, take some advice, get in contact, do the rounds, call people who are in the game that you're in, Chris. Make sure you understand what the market available to you is, and then make a decision. Because all the way through, one thing that I didn't realize is that you can liquidate a business and then you can start a business. You can liquidate a business and then you can move forward and go, right, I'm going to start again. I've learned valuable life lessons. I know roughly where I went wrong the first time. And most people, I didn't realize this, but you've told me, Molly's told me, most people, they start up again. They don't just stop. they might go and work for the man for a little while, but an entrepreneurial flair is something that's difficult to get rid of. So most people will start up again. My situation was, as you know, you kept reminding me, my situation was not a big deal. It was a big deal to me, but in terms of HMRC and what I owed and the size of my business turnover and whether or not how much I would have to pay back and on top of that, I was convinced people were going to come after me. They're going to come after me, Chris. I said that a lot. They're going to come after you.
I've got.
They're going to come after me. Yeah, exactly. They're going to come after you, and you just feel like you're on the precipice of falling off the edge. It's not real. It isn't real. HMRC, they don't want to go after people. They just want to get paid if they can, and if they can't, they draw a line underneath it. People like yourself and Molly, if you are knowingly a bandit in business, you're not going to get represented. So they're not the people that are listening to this podcast. And if you are, good luck, because you're going to come unstuck eventually. But if you're genuinely a bloke like me that started a business, and actually I'm still in business, I just had a break to do this, and you made a few mistakes, you learnt your lesson, you liquidated a business, you're going to start up again. You're going to survive. It's not going to be the end of the world as you know it.
How do you feel now that you're through the liquidation creditors meeting now and the business is in liquidation, James?
I feel all right. I feel all right. I mean, listen, there was no income there for 3 months. And we're not in an environment in the UK where it's easy to weather the storm with 3 months no income. So that has been difficult for me and people around me. But in terms of my business now, I've gone self-employed instead of an LTD. That just suits the situation I have upcoming, and I have re-engaged with the same company that I was talking to before, and they've actually employed me and said, listen, we valued what you were doing. We just weren't using the LTD in the way that we thought we would. So my situation might be a bit unique, but I'm fine. I still, if I'm honest with you, I still feel a level of guilt associated with not doing it right the first time. But that's a personal thing. That's who I am. My wife says to me, you don't need to take responsibility for that. You know, there's so many things that I take responsibility for that I probably don't need to, but that's just the way I am. But I feel like I can breathe again, for sure. I'm sleeping at night. I didn't sleep for, I don't know how long. I'm sleeping. I'm working. I'm going to start earning money in the new year. I'm still living and breathing. My kids still love me. My wife is still with me. So all of the things I told myself would happen at the beginning haven't, apart from the one thing you told me would happen, i.e. life goes on. So, you know, that's the truth of the story.
James, honestly, mate, thank you for coming and sharing, you know, your experience. Is there anything else that you would like to share about anything really, or about working with us? And if not, you know, have you got any final words? You've been a really, really good, strong guest.
Just, yeah, be honest with yourself, people. Just be honest with yourself. Where we find ourselves in the United Kingdom right now is not a place where you can make a ton of mistakes and not feel the heat from it. So if you feel like you're going down that path, like your business is teetering on the edge, don't be afraid of picking up the phone to a company like Director First, walking through the situation, knowing and understanding what the process is half the battle. And then realizing that when you pop out the other end, you're not scarred for life. Not even on my, what's it called? My Experian credit report. My Experian credit report has never been stronger than it is now. I don't, you know, if you have a straightforward situation like I had, which, you know, I made a few mistakes. I borrowed a bit of money to try and rectify those mistakes. And then I had a key client cancel. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just life. You shouldn't feel guilty for it. Get some advice for it, move on, rebuild, and pick yourself back up. That's what you have to do. All of the worrying in between is utterly, utterly useless. Really, it's useless. Late nights, not sleeping, all the stuff that you do before you actually do something. That's the bit I wish I hadn't done for months.
Well, James, listen, I'm going to wrap up there, mate. Thank you
Aye.
so much. And mate, it's been lovely to get to know you as well. And I wish you all the best.
Likewise. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. And thank you for all your help. Yeah, God bless. Keep the faith. That's what I would say.
Amen to that, man. See you soon.